In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this little simple animation of a baseball being hit. Okay? So let me stop this, and then I'm going to double click so we can get out of, well, we can go back to default. There we go. All right, so in order to do this, we're going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to go File, and I'm going to go to New Project. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on New Composition from Footage. All right? Because I have an Illustrator file set up. Now, I have this set up so that it goes straight to my baseball demo folder, and in that folder I have my baseball.ai, okay, file. And it's basically three simple layers. You know, it's a round circle and with some stripes. And we're going to take a look at it in just a second, so I don't need to explain it all. Let me go to here is very important. That is import as. We want import as composition retain layer sizes. This is very key, okay? We always want to do that. And then we go and click open. So the next thing we're going to do is, before we do anything else, we're going to go to composition settings and check everything out. And main things we want to check out is frame rate. We want to make sure that's 30 frames per second. And our duration for this little short film is 2 seconds. And so if we need to change this, because sometimes if you're working on a project that's longer, 15 seconds or whatever, and then you go and you want to make a new movie, you want to change this, okay? So, and you can only do this after you bring in the composition, okay? Now let's click OK, and then I'm going to go up here to my project panel and click on this little icon. We're going to double click it, and this is what happens. It brings it in here, okay? And what you see down in here in our timeline is we got 3 layers. We got a baseball layer, okay, and it's really scaled way up there. We got a bat, and we got our black background. So what we want to do is we want to make our baseball come into the picture, but it's going to come in and it's going to be coming to the center point. So the simplest thing to do here is we want to go to the 1 second mark. Because at the 1 second mark, what I want to happen is I want the bat to be hitting the baseball. And so the baseball needs to be smaller. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over to the baseball layer, and I'm going to go and hit the S button on my keyboard so it brings up the scale. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub this down here to where it's smaller. Okay? We don't want it too small. Maybe at 2%. And we can change this afterwards. Okay? But we want it small, and that's where it's going to be hit at. So I'm going to mark this here by clicking our little stopwatch, and this will insert a keyframe right here. Now, if we move our timeline indicator, nothing changes, of course, because I have not put in another keyframe yet. But before I change the scale back up to enlarge it, I'm going to change the position of where this baseball's at, and it's going to be coming in from outside. So I'm going to go over to my baseball layer again, and I'm going to click Shift, and then I'm going to click P, and that's going to add the position keyframe setter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click it here. So that's where I want it at. It installs the keyframe right there. And then I'm going to drag my timeline indicator all the way to the start of our movie. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this baseball and drag it way up here, outside the picture. Okay? And if we want to, we can scale down our composition so we can actually see how far out it is. All right. If we want it out a little bit further, we can take it out a little bit further. All right. So what's going to happen is if I play this, it just goes down to that. All right. So now, what I want to happen is when it's up here coming in, I want it to be much larger and going down to that scale there. So I'm going to go to our scale, click on it over here, and I'm going to scrub this up. And when I scrub, I mean enlarge. what's going to happen is it's going to install another keyframe right there. So now if I play it, this is what happens. Very simple. Okay? Now what we want to happen is we want the baseball to hit, we want the bat to hit it. So let's go to our time indicator and bring it over to the 1 second mark where we want the bat to hit it. I'm going to zoom in here. And we're going to go to the bat layer. Okay? Now, I'm going to press R for rotation. So the rotation option pops up down there. And so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you what happens if I scrub this. And our bat is rotating, but you know it's not rotating like a real bat because our bat should rotate towards the bottom of the bat right here. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and use this tool right here, our toolbar called Pan Behind Anchor Point. And we're going to click on that, and we're going to click on this little targeting icon here. But this is where it's going to be rotating from. Now I'm going to drag it to about right there. We don't need to do all the way at the bottom of the bat. But now if you notice, when I scrub it, it is rotating from that point now. So let's actually rotate it down to where it would hit the baseball. And then I'm going to click and click on the stopwatch so it will install a keyframe on that layer. Now I'm going to go back a little bit on our timeline. And we don't want our bat to be there, but we could go all the way to the beginning, but I think it's better to be a little closer in because we want to scrub this rotation here to go up here like this. So let's play this now. And so you see it hits the baseball, but nothing's happening yet because we need to go up to the baseball again. And we're going to go to the end of our movie right here. And I'm going to go and just scale it up, okay? And we got to click on the baseball layer and click on scale in order to do this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub it upwards to where it fills the frame. And actually, I could do it at 100%. There we go. So when you're making elements outside of After Effects, one thing you should always do is make them the size they need to be at the largest scale. And that's why we brought it in and it looked like this. Because if I had made the Illustrator file and made the baseball small and then scaled it up in After Effects, then it's going to look real fuzzy. It's not going to look right. It's going to look out of focus. So that's one of the reasons we do that. So I'll discuss that more in other tutorials. So let me play this, and we can see what happens here. Boom. And we could add a little sound effect if we want to, but for this tutorial, we're just going to be working with the animation, okay? Now, one thing I'd like to do with this to make it even more interesting is I want to rotate my baseball so it spins, okay? So I'm going to go to the baseball layer, and then I'm going to hold down my Shift key, and I'm going to click R, and that will add the rotation option to the baseball layer. And we're going to click the stopwatch there to add a keyframe. And then I'm going to drag it all the way to the beginning of the movie, and we're going to rotate this. We're going to rotate this. So we'll go maybe, I'll go to maybe 206. We'll see what this looks like. Then I'm going to hit the space bar so it plays, and there you go. So it rotates in, comes out, looks good. I'd like to rotate it as it's coming out, as it's coming back at us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to the end here, drag my time indicator to the end of our movie there, and then we're going to just scrub this. And I want it to end up like that, but we'll do 360 degrees. So it goes all in a complete circle there. And if we want to, we could always just type it in. if scrubbing doesn't quite get us there, because sometimes it's just hard to. There we go. Now it's at, and I hit the enter key on my keyboard to do that. Now what I'm going to do is just hit the space bar and we'll watch our movie. And boom, there it goes. Looks beautiful. Okay? So, I'm going to hit the space bar to stop it right now. And, we'll go to the end of our movie. We drag the time indicator there. But now we're going to export this. And I've covered this before, but I'm just going to cover it again. And so we're going to go to Composition. And we're going to go to Add to Render Queue. And then we're going to go to our render settings. We're going to look at this, Best. Now, the full-size movie is 1280 by 1280. I'm going to make this half the size, so it's just not as large, okay? So I'm going to do that. Make sure that our frame rate is 30 frames per second. And in case we didn't set that up right, but sometimes I'll bring in some things that's, come in at like maybe 24 frames per second. We can actually render it so it's 30 frames a second, okay? But we won't need to click on that. Click OK. And then we're going to check over here on the output. The output, we want to set this format to H.264, which is an MP4. That's very important, okay? And we're just going to click OK. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the output. So I'm going to click on this. In each one of these I'm clicking on the blue highlighted text here. All right? So that brings that up. And all we're really concerned about is we want to make sure where we're going to save this movie to. Because, we could save it anywhere, but we want to know where to find it. And so I'm going to save it out here on our desktop. Hit Save. Now, it hasn't saved yet, of course, until we hit the render queue. And there it is. It has rendered it as a movie. And then we can go and see it as a movie. Now, I'm on a Mac, so let's take a look at our movie here. I've got actually several of these. But I think it's this one right here, if I'm correct. All right. And we can play it. Terrific. Okay. Now, I had an earlier version of this that I did the night before, but I did not add in the stripes. So let's pull this one up. Okay, I called it Baseball Bat. And as you can see, I don't have the little stripes there, the stitching, that is, I should say. And it's a very simple movie, but I thought to myself, boy, it'd be much cooler to make that with the stitching so it looks like a real baseball. So anyway, this will complete this tutorial.